So we moved back to our agenda. So we'll go through till 12:30, just so that people know what we're doing. Then we'll take a break. So
move 9, Madam Chair.
We're going to move. We'll move just the straight out decision items. So Councillor Darby.
9, move.
Happy to move 9. I think 9 and 10 we can move together.
Probably and 11.
And 11. Move Councillor Darby, 9, 10 and 11. I'm happy to second those. They are machinery items. I'll put those, all those in favour please say aye.
Aye.
Against, carried. And then we move on to item 12, which is the Punui structure, oh sorry, Councillor.
Madam Chair, I want to register at the beginning of this item how completely inadequate it has been to receive this critically important paper to councillors. It was received by email. I asked Christy.
We're on the Punui structure plan.
My apologies, Madam Chair. I'm sorry. I thought you had actually moved through to that, so I was on agenda item 13. My apologies.
And we share your concerns, so we will deal with that. I've got something to say when we get to that item, but I'd like to do Punui first. Welcome. So you're going to welcome Anne, and I hope you were there to hear the acknowledgements from Karen Wilson on behalf of the iwi.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Greetings, councillors, kia ora members. First of all, I'd like to acknowledge the support of Te Akitai and to express our great appreciation for the trust that has been put in the team. And without that, we cannot have progressed the work. And we have thoroughly enjoyed the challenge, and I can really say that, and we have learned a lot. And very often we hear about lack of success stories. These stories are not for us to tell, but that was really great to hear that from Karen this morning. Now, we last reported in October last year, and the context for the structure plan work. So first of all, we've got, this is what triggered. Well, for Karen, it was the private plan change, which then triggered the question about the eastern access, which was about Puinui Road. So private plan change site is here. So that plan change request is still on the table. This is to rezone about 150 hectares of land for urban development, which would also require an MUL shift. So we're looking at the drivers for change, and there are opportunities as well as parameters for change. So the values and constraints, and I'll come to that in the next slide. But we also need to look at the wider strategic fit. So there is that shortage of business land in Auckland, and this is what the proposal for Plan Change 35, thank you, doesn't show up my shaky hand even better. And also the context of Auckland International Airport, and the context for the roading connection. So it's not just about Puinui Road, but it is about where this lands, where the improvements connect onto the existing motorway, the southwestern, as well as further connections to Kirkbride Road in this area. Now, the future expansion of Auckland Airport, that is quite key to this piece of work. So, whoops, this thing fell off. Sorry. So for the second, this shows the first column, the various pieces of work that we've been doing since March last year, which was when the structure plan process was established. The second, the middle one, was about the work that we've been doing since November and last year, and we will be continuing with that until August at least. And this is the piece of work that Karen mentioned in her address to the committee, that when we first started, it was quite daunting, but because we have been working in partnership. So the first, and the GP is a good progress, and that was confirmed by Karen, so I didn't presume that that was the case, so that was good. And ecological work, stormwater. Now, the next two red bits. That's really, this is a heads up, and because we don't want surprises, so that's why this report is coming to this committee at this time as well. You remember in that map I talked about the connection. So it is not just about the widening the Puanui Road, and how we surface the proposed development of the private plan change area and also the rest of the area, but it is how that infrastructure is connected back. This is an area where we're having very intense discussions with Auckland Transport and the New Zealand Transport Agency. It's all to do with timing and sequencing of planning and investment, because one of the key resolutions from last committee report was that we need to investigate staged development. So that's where we are at the moment. Whoops, sorry. And we are working towards a workshop with stakeholders towards the end of June. And because we are actually combining the unitary plan submissions process with the private plan change process, so we'll be having discussions on a without prejudice, without commitment basis. So which leads me to this last group, which is what we are aiming to get to, and where we'll be addressing submissions to the unitary plan as well as the private plan change request, and we'll be putting forward an integrated package looking at the location of the RAB, what overlays and the plan provisions. Now, at the moment, the program for hearing, this is a guess, this is an estimate. We're thinking this October, November time. So that's by way of setting the context and introducing this item.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair.
We've got Councillor Filipaina's moved this. Councillor
Yeah,
Penrose.
I'm a second, Madam Chair.
Oh, you have a second?
Absolutely. Yeah, Madam Chair. First of all, I just want to say to Penny and Anne and the team, and thank you for the work to date. And I know this is a difficult one, but I just want to say that your skills working with iwi, and I want to acknowledge Karen this morning too. We've come a long way over recent months. I'd like to have had it resolved yesterday, but but not the case. But Madam Chair, the elephant in the room here is really, in my view, NZTA. And I just want to again acknowledge Anne and the team for the work that's been undertaken in recent months to get to the stage where we are. But and we have a little bit of work underway at the moment to work with NZTA, because as I say, this is where the road, the rubber hits the road, and this is where the roadblocks are, Madam Chair. But not just in particular this private plan change, but some of our other challenges that we have across the region that's related to NZTA. So hopefully we'll find a way forward in the months ahead, sooner rather than later. And again, the good work that's undertaken with the Southern Consortium as well. So I do have a question though, Anne, and that is that if you can just, the council to confirm the contractual liabilities that may be there that I think Karen spoke about. So where do we sit with that?
Yeah. The Eastern Access Agreement,
Yeah.
just to clarify. Yes, through you, Madam Chair, this is a relationship process. The agreement is there, and we have entered into this work because of the relationship and in good faith, but the content of the agreement, it's something that really is much, much, much bigger than just this plan change work. So it is something that would need to be picked up by Te Waka Moa as well as elected representatives. So that needs to be firmly addressed.
Yeah.
I think, though, the question you're asking Councillor Penrose is there is nothing in that agreement that contractually prevents the council from shifting the rub or rezoning the land if that is what the conclusion is out of the structure planning process.
Yeah.
It's a more moral obligation to undertake the right relationship and governance discussions with iwi and other parties as we go through that process.
Yeah, and I think you've heard through Karen this morning, Madam Chair, about the concerns about transport, so that's the biggest concern at this stage.
And
Thank you.
perhaps if I could just clarify the issue that we have with the transport issue is Puanui is a state highway. It connects into State Highway 20 as well. So it's actually, it's the obligation of NZTA to upgrade it. Whether or not we rezone this land from rural to urban through the independent hearing planning process is that road is already under stress because of the expansion of the airport and the use of it by traffic going east to west. So one of the issues that we have is that it is not in the NZTA program for the next 10 years for any upgrading of Puanui Road. Obviously the request to rezone the land from a private landowners has really brought to light the fact that perhaps there needs to be some bringing forward of that program of work with NZTA, and we are having conversations with NZTA about that. But that is the difficult issue that we're working through yet, because we really can't recommend a change in zoning if there is no transport capacity in the adjoining roads to deal with the traffic that might be generated from that change of zoning.
So we have a plan, Madam Chair, and we'll see if it works, but again, I just want to thank Anne for her work to date.
Perhaps couldn't work out what that was. I've got Councillor Filipaina, Councillor Anai, Member Ngamane and Councillor Darby.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to sort of, again, just reiterate and thank the team for this. There's really only two things from my perspective, Chair. One is that not only a plan, but there's a process moving forward with this. And that process is really highlighted on 12 and 13 of page 30 in our agenda. You know, the fact that to initiate a change to the MUL is until the Puanui structure plan was completed, and then the following 13 is around the proposed Auckland Unitary Plan. So look, thank you. Long time coming is what people have said, so yeah, thank you, Chair. Process, plan.
Thank you, Councillor
Elephant in the room.
Councillor Anai.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you again for the great work that's gone here, Anne. But just one question, obviously you've looked at this. When we looked at, you were there at Manukau, we looked at the Collindale Park and the noise that we were concerned about there. I take it that's been addressed with this as well?
Through the Chair, we're not looking at changing the provisions for open space or committed open space projects, though in developing this body of work for the overlays and the zones, so we will be looking at setting development controls regarding buildings when they go in even over open space. But the noise, I mean, I think this will probably, the aircraft noise will probably be more significant than from the motorsport.
Thank you. I just didn't want a Western Springs Eden Park coming up again, that's all. Thank you.
Councillor Member Ngamane.
Kia ora. It's very good to hear the relationship is a positive one with Te Aku Tai. It's just one question around the Eastern Access Agreement only because Karen raised it. And it seems from their perspective, they see that like as the catalyst that brought together working on the Puanui structure plan. And I noted your response back to Councillor Penrose was, well, you know, where is that going? It might go to Te Wakaangamua, etc. Leveraging off the very good relationship you've got now under this project, is there a mind to kind of close off that discussion or commence that discussion flowing out of this so that there's some consistency for Te Akitai rather than it being seen as two separate parts where clearly they see it as connected?
Yeah. Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair. I think it is the commencing of a new process. The main thing is that we're not ignoring that there is an agreement on the table, but also that willingness of Te Akitai to have come to the table to work on this structure plan work. But we must not presume that that agreement is therefore now not an issue. So I think it is about the commencement of the new process, and it is about the relationship between the Auckland Council and Te Akitai, and there are other signatories to that Eastern Access Agreement as well, and including other mana whenua groups